Okay, so real quick, I just wanted to address a big topic that's coming up right now, which is how to land your dream job at your dream studio. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're trying to hire a bunch of artists right now. I'm looking through everyone's reels, and they all look good, but they all look the same. And there's nothing really resonating, because I feel like all of us are just doing the same stuff. Okay, so let's just dive right into this. This is a big topic that I think a lot of us have wrong. That we want to work on a reel, and we want to make it the best thing ever, but our version of that is literally to show up, which is to make a reel that we dictate. I'm going to throw an explosion on here, this tutorial, this would be cool, and it's all over the place. So if we're trying to resonate for everybody, we resonate with nobody. And that's what we don't want to do. We want to make sure that we resonate with a very specific client who our reel is going to. So this is really important. Why would you spend weeks, months? Some people will spend a year working on a demo reel. And you're doing that without ever thinking about, well, who is it going to? And how do I make this resonate? This is such an important thing that gets so overlooked. So I want to solve that. I want to go into a few really important things here that are so important that seem to get overlooked, and hopefully solve this problem for a lot of us and give us some core things to start thinking about. And the way that I want to do this is I want to break this down to a science. I don't want to have any guesswork, and I want to just look at the data to dictate who is this going to and how do I make it resonate above everyone else's reel that's being sent in. And this isn't something that's ultra complex. This is something that you can do, and the concept itself is pretty straightforward. But if people were doing it, I would see their reels and be like, oh, I gotta hire this person. So obviously, most of us don't think of this when we're working on a reel, and this is exactly why I wanna get into what to do to land your dream job. Okay, let's get started. Okay, quick 60-second word from my sponsor, and then we'll dive in. Okay, so really quick, I just want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and if you like learning and you like this channel and you want to help out and make sure that future videos like this one get made, take a second to click the link below this video, and you'll get instant access to Skillshare's learning platform for free for 2 months. So not only will you get access to all of their classes, which are hundreds of them, you'll specifically be able to find all the information you need on very niche topics that us as creatives love to get into. Whether it is how to use a camera or more the technical side, such as how a camera sensor works or how to get that perfect shot, everything you need to know is in there, as well as how to learn compositing, such as with After Effects or many of the other compositing software on the platform. In addition, you better learn Max, Maya, Houdini, every single 3D tool that you can imagine. I'm a big fan of learning just in time rather than just in case. So in other words, I want to have instant access to the information that I need at that specific time. So I love being able to log into Skillshare and have access to all of their classes and be able to find exactly what I need when I need it, and then be able to get back to what I'm doing right away. So like I said, if you want to take advantage of this offer, click the link below this video to get instant access to Skillshare's premium level membership for 2 free months. So take advantage of this offer by clicking the link below right now. And thanks for supporting this channel. If we can really kind of break it down to a science, like get rid of all the guessing and really kind of break it down to like what are the needs of the studio that we're trying to apply for a job at? Like who are they? What is the type of work that they do? The more that we look at the history of the studio, the more that we can understand a bit more about like, well, what are they probably looking for? Who do they typically hire in the past? And so I always say like history solves everything, or history tells all, just because we can look at what they've done in the past as a good way of understanding like what we need on our reel. So I think the first thing to do is to always like do your research, do your due diligence when it comes to building a reel. Who is it aimed for? So number one thing I'm going to put on here really quick is going to be number one. It's going to be what do they do a lot of and what do they not do a lot of. So if we were to look at a certain studio, what do they do? And then not do. And like I said, this sounds so simple because it is. This isn't a tricky new revolutionary thing that is going to change your life in terms of something you haven't heard or thought of before. The problem is that a lot of us might think it, but then it goes right out of our ear and we think of something else instead because we keep making these reels for ourselves. I've been looking at a lot of reels today to hire people and they all seem to be doing the same thing. I want to try and solve this problem when I'm applying for a job. I want to say, well, what are they trying to hire me for? What can I do? like I said, if I'm looking at like, well, what does the studio do a lot of? Then that's going to give me a better understanding of like what their typical needs are. Like usually a studio isn't hired like, oh yeah, we love the building destruction you guys do, so we were wondering if you can give us some really cool cutesy Pixar character animation work. That's not what typically happens. Usually a studio is hired for their reputation. A studio is hired because they do the best large-scale water simulations, or they do the best building destruction sequences. They do the best sci-fi machine hard surface modeling and realistic car renderings, or whatever it might be, game cinematics, whatever it could be. So their history, their niche, what they've defined as their brand is what they're going to get a lot of. And unless they redefine what their brand is, they're going to be attracting that sort of work. So if you're going to work at, let's say, Scanline VFX, then you can expect that if I look at their website, if I look at what they typically do, I'd get a pretty good understanding that they do a lot of building destruction. They do a lot of pyro, explosions and smoke and things like that. Large-scale water simulation. So all of these things are things I would look at. Destruction, pyro, water. They do digi-doubles and crowd simulations. But what do they not do? Well, I don't see many game cinematics, music videos, Pixar. I'm just going to put like Pixar animation. Those would be things that, to me, I look at their stuff. The more I research them, the more it's like, well, I don't see any of this stuff on their reel. I don't see any of this stuff on their website. So if I'm working on a demo reel that's going to make me stand out from everyone else, I've got a blacklist of like, do not do these things. I've got a white list of do more of these things. It means that if I want to resonate, I want my reel to be perfectly aligned with, I know what you guys do, and also this is what they're probably going to be hiring for. So it's a lot easier for me to say, okay, well, if I want to align with these people, if everyone's sending in their reels and they're all saying, I do explosions and I do water, but I also do Pixar stuff and music videos and sci-fi weird stuff, it's all over the place. It's very mixed messaging. If you have one person who's just 100% aligned with, I do this, and they're like, well, we do this, and we're actually hiring for this, then instantly you become top of mind. And that means you go to the front of the pile, and usually you're going to stick out as like, well, definitely keep this person in mind because like their stuff is exactly what we do, exactly what we need. Again, when you put yourself in the shoes of the person hiring, this is what we're doing. We're looking at, well, if I'm looking to hire someone, it's because I have a specific need in mind. I didn't wake up one day and say, I need to hire an effects person, or I need to hire an animator or a designer. It's, I need to hire a designer for this new campaign we're doing, and it needs to have really good motion graphics, it's very glitchy and has a sort of vibe to it, or I need to do pyro and destruction and large-scale water sims. It's going to be a big tsunami wiping out a city and things are blowing up everywhere. Like whatever it is, that's what they're known for. And if they're looking to hire someone for that, that's what they're going to be looking for as well. So hopefully I'm not explaining that to death, but I think that's really critical is do your research on the client you want to apply for. And if this is your dream job, if this is Industrial Light and Magic or Ubisoft or Scanline or Pixar, the place that you ultimately want to work at, the more that your work aligns with them, the more that you're going to resonate with them. So the other thing to keep in mind is to look at previous stuff. So let's put number 2, previous stuff. So like I said, history tells all, because by doing this, I can look at them on LinkedIn. I can go to LinkedIn and say, okay, Scanline VFX, let's say. I can click on employees for the company on the company page, and it's going to tell me all the people who've ever worked at Scanline VFX. And I can click on every single one of them. I can see their job history. I can see their skills, what they called themselves. Did they say I'm an effects artist or a generalist, or did I say that I'm an effects technical director? Like, what are the key words that are resonating for them that really stood out? In other words, they defined themselves in a way that really resonated, like, okay, this person is a technical director. They're not a generalist who dabbles in effects. This person is what we're looking for. But the most important thing is I can look at their work experience. I can look at the previous type of projects they've done, the type of studios they've worked for. all of this stuff is data. All of this stuff kind of really helps me understand what it is that they're looking for, like what they've typically hired in the past. And I think that's such a critical thing for all of us to think about is, well, what is it? Like, what are the things that they look for in an artist? Well, clearly, if they've hired other people in the past, there's a reason for that. And not only that, I can actually go to their, so let's put like work history here. So I can go to their LinkedIn and look at this stuff and say, there's their work history. I need to look at, well, what type of work have they done? And if I can look at their demo reel, which is pretty easy, a lot of the time there's going to be a link to their website or to Zerply or one of the other places that I can go online and review the stuff. I can look at every single person who's worked for their studio, look at their demo reel and see, well, this is the type of stuff they've hired people for in the past, because this means that they're proven. These people have worked there. That meant they got hired. In other words, they've already done the result that we're trying to do ourselves. So if you really want to align your reel with the studio that you want to work for, it's good to go and look at, well, okay, what's the type of stuff that they do a lot of? What is the stuff that they don't do a lot of? But on top of that, who are the people they've hired in the past? What's the type of stuff that they've got on their reel that got them their job? Because that's going to help us and give us a clearer idea. So this also means like, what type of specialties do they have? So we'll say skills. Because not only is it like, okay, is that game cinematics or whatever else, just like on the last page for their reel, but what about skills? Like, are they a programmer? Do they have a background doing illustration? You know, do they understand compositing? We're able to start to craft out like a profile of like, these are the real needs that I need to have. Because even if you look at a job posting, and we'll get to that in a moment, but even if you look at a job posting, there's going to be times where they might say, you need to have this, this, and this. And half the time, like, that stuff mightn't be relevant. Or they might just be saying that because they know it's going to discourage certain people. That's why you'll hear like minimum 2 years feature film experience, because a lot of people who don't have that feature film experience will be like, I guess I can't apply. But that one person who's like, well, I don't have the experience, but I've got a lot of talent, you know, I'm going to still send in my reel. That person, they're going to look at the work and be like, that's great. They're just trying to discourage the person who picked up a book on Maya yesterday and said, I'm a 3D artist now. So this is where you're filtering them out. But that stuff on the job post is one thing. Human resources might have copy pasted that in, whatever. But the stuff that the other artists who've worked there in the past, they're going to be the proof. Okay, they're going to be the thing that says, well, these people all have these things in common. They all seem to use this software, or they all seem to use this tool, or they all seem to have learned scripting, Python, you know, whatever it might be. And the more that you can kind of build those commonalities, you start to get a better idea of what they look for. And it also means that if you don't have those things, then you can address it. You can say, hey, I'd love to work for your company. When you're sending your reel in and a cover letter in, you can say, I don't actually have much Python experience, but I am willing to learn, and I do have some scripting experience in this language or that. You're able to start addressing the things that you think might be a deal breaker in a way that if they were just to look at your resume and say, no programming experience, they might put you to the bottom of the pile. But if you address it in the right way, you're diffusing the problem before it ever becomes a problem. So hopefully that makes sense. So we've already established looking at previous workers, because if you want to work at the dream job, you've got to make sure that your reel aligns with the stuff that they do, because that's probably what they're going to be hired for in the first place. But also, who are the people that they've hired in the past? Because these people have been hired, it means that obviously they were doing something right. The final thing that I'll get into here, number 3, is going to be current projects. The final thing I was talking about, and this is a no-brainer, but look at what they're currently working on. Do some due diligence, right? Like go into their IMDb. So not everyone will have this up to date, but a lot of big studios, they'll use this as an advertisement to say, we're currently doing these big projects. So they're not just going to say, you know, we worked on these things last year. We better go update it once every 6 months. They're actively updating this because they know that their company is then going to show up as one of the active companies involved in the production. So IMDb is a really good place to go there, because if you're applying for a job, you're like, I really want to work at, and I'll keep going with the example here of Scanline VFX. I really want to work at Scanline VFX. And you go to their IMDb, and it says King Kong versus Godzilla, or is it Godzilla versus King Kong? I think it's Godzilla versus King Kong. So if that's the production that they have going on right now, one of a few, then you could say, okay, well, if that's what they're working on, and they're looking for someone who does building, destruction, pyro, and water effects, and now I've got some context, maybe I should just be showing stuff that involves a giant lizard smashing through a city and really show like large-scale water effects, a lot of destruction, creature effects, and interaction with creatures and environments. These are the sorts of things that obviously, if it's for that job, will align with them. If they're doing the Matrix 4, then maybe you've got to either look at, well, okay, what's the stuff they've done in the past? Could it be that they're probably bidding on a sequence involving large-scale stuff, or is it going to be more real-world, sci-fi, whatever? The more that you can understand and do your research, the more that's going to align. The other thing to look at is simply going to their website. Again, not everyone does this, but a lot of big productions, or sorry, a lot of big studios, when they're working on big productions, they will have currently in production, and they'll list all their movies, because this is a chance to advertise we're doing all these cool things. It's credentials for them to be able to promote that they're really busy working on lots of high profile stuff. So whether you go to Industrial Light and Magic or Scanline, Weta, they'll have this stuff on their page somewhere to kind of say, this is all the cool stuff we're involved in right now. So that way they, you know, obviously can show their authority in the industry compared to some mom and pop shop. Now, that sort of stuff just makes it really easy to be able to look at. But then on top of that, you could just look at job posts. I know that sounds very obvious, but they're not always going to say I'll make this a plural. They're not going to say we need someone specifically for Godzilla vs. King Kong to create this one epic wide shot of the city being destroyed by all these different creatures. But they are going to say maybe the movie that they're working on, but they are going to say like looking for XYZ, like programming skills, bunch of experience, all these other things. And that just helps you get a better understanding about like, okay, what is it they're probably hiring for? If they're needing all these things, like how can I demonstrate that to the best of my ability? And again, like that is so obvious, like, okay, do what the job post says. But like I said, a lot of the time, the demo reels that I'm getting, and I'm looking to hire someone, and instead what ends up happening is it's just all over the place. It's tutorial work, it's some live action, it's some Pixar stuff, it's everywhere. And the more that I can say, okay, it looks like they're working on this movie, it looks like they need someone with this sort of experience. I've looked at the previous staff on their LinkedIn profile, and I've gone through their reel, their skills, and they have this sort of experience, and they have this sort of stuff on their reel. All this stuff starts to kind of come together and give me a better idea about like what it is that they're looking for. And the final thing I'll just say is that you could actually contact artists there. So I'm just going to say contact artists. And that means that while you're working on your reel and you're trying to put the stuff together, you can also go and find, like, again, go to your LinkedIn, go stalk some people, because it's going to say all the people who are currently there as well. But you can go and find those people, and if they're posting their work online, you can go and buddy up to them. You don't need to be deceitful about this, but you can say like, hey, you know, I love your work. I thought it'd be really cool to connect with you. And I'm just curious, by the way, you know, 1 or 2 messages in, you could say like, by the way, I'm just curious, I'm applying for a job pretty soon, you know, can you give me any hint, like what type of stuff that you guys usually look for? Or you could even just say that, you know, love the work you're doing, blah, blah, blah. By the way, are you working on anything cool right now? And they might be like, well, I'm actually working on Iron Man 10 at the moment. Don't tell anyone. And you never know, like you might befriend some of these people because you've got that commonality. They might look at your Instagram and be like, whoa, your stuff's really cool. And when you mention you'd love to work at Scanline one day or Weta one day, whatever it might be, they're likely to be like, well, if you want, like the supervisor sits next to me, I can just show you his work. And this is a chance for you to get on the inside without needing to go through the typical channels that everyone else is going through. So, I mean, there's so many different things that you can do in these situations. And again, like, it sounds so obvious, but no one seems to be doing it, because otherwise I would have an easier time trying to find people. So, you know, I figure it's worthwhile mentioning this stuff. So, I mean, hopefully this is resonating with you guys. Like, hopefully you get this, that, yeah, sounds obvious. Make a demo reel that is aligned with what they typically do, because that's probably what they're looking to hire for. But that's exactly it. That's exactly the problem. Most of us don't do that. We go and make our own reel, and we just have our own fun. And if you're putting this much time into it, then why would you do that instead of looking at the data and trying to align with that data as much as possible? So hopefully this stuff was obvious and you're like, oh yeah, duh, like, why didn't I do that before? Like I said, if we're spending days, weeks, months, even a year working on our reel, like, why haven't we done the homework and thought, how can I hack this? How can I make this resonate above everything else? I think this is such a critical thing that gets so overlooked, and I want you to really think about the strategy that goes into something like this. If you're spending so much time making it resonate, making it be the best reel it can be, then do the work ahead of time, do the research, and make sure that you align 100% with the place that you're sending your reel to. And that way you will stand out. You'll rise above all the other demo reels that are going out. And it's such a critical thing. And if this video resonates with you and you want to learn more about this, I've put together a book. It's a free guide which will go through everything there is to know about demo reels. So I spent a lot of time on this because I wanted to outline all the strategies and ways to stand out and everything that goes into an irresistible reel, as well as what are the things to avoid putting on your reel that will cost you the job and cost your reel being skipped over and the next person's being played. So if you want to check it out, I've got this free book here, The Ultimate Demo Reel Guide. You can go to allanmckay.com/myreel. I'll leave a link in the description as well, and you'll be able to download it there. And it's entirely free. You can grab the book. It also comes with a few videos on specific topics around that as well. So that's my gift to you, but I think this will really resonate and help you with how to build the ultimate demo reel to land you your dream job. Now, finally, if you're enjoying this video, I've put another video here you can check out on demo reel tips, and this will continue on to help you learn and better your whole demo reel strategy. Okay, thanks for watching. Leave a comment, let me know what you think, and I'm gonna run to a meeting, so have a good one, and I'll be back next video. Rock on.